We have in studio Seth Denson. Hello there, Seth.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Is that me playing there?
I don't know. I am hearing sound from somewhere, but I'm not sure where it's coming from. It's
Interestingly enough, my nickname, Mr. Wacky.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, it's like,
Oh, is your phone up?
Oh, that's me.
there we go. We're trying
we
to
found it.
Track that. Usually it's us.
I'm not
Yeah.
the technical guy, so
Yeah.
here I come in with the widget
stuff.
that throws the whole thing.
So,
No worries.
so were you a class clown? Is that what you were
I actually
saying?
wasn't. No, I was not the classic clown.
Saying nothing about you says class clown to me. Like,
No.
most likely to succeed. Those things I see. The guy, the captain of the baseball team. Those kind of things I can see happening. Not
How
class
much of that
clown.
was accurate?
The captain of the baseball team was actually
Okay. There you go.
not the most likely to succeed.
He calls him like he sees him.
Yeah. So we have David. We have Seth Denson, who is the co-founder of GDP, and it's weird that you work in the healthcare space,
Right.
And then I was reading through LinkedIn, like I tend to do it every night, kind of going through and getting caught up on my stories.
You read LinkedIn every night?
Yeah.
Really?
It's chock full of good information.
And you say
don't?
you were the class clown, please.
Sir, I grew up a lot. My wife has helped me become the chiseled man that I am today, not the wreck that she found me in cargo shorts and a baseball hat 12 years ago.
All right, anyway, sorry. LinkedIn. yes.
And then I was reading your story about your youngest child. Mm-hmm. Can you mind going and jumping in and telling that story?
Yeah, so earlier this year, the flu was going around Dallas-Fort Worth pretty heavily, and my youngest daughter had contracted the stomach flu. Normal process, take her to the pediatrician. Pediatrician got concerned after a couple of days, saying, hey, listen, her dehydration is at a max level. We probably need to get her into Children's Hospital. Just, precautionary, just to monitor her and get an IV in her, just because she wasn't able to hold any fluids down. So, anytime it's your kid,
Sure.
right? It's interesting. We do healthcare consulting and strategic advising, but when it comes to your kid, you become the worst consumer of healthcare known to man, right? You're like, whatever it takes, let's go. So immediately we rushed her to Children's. They admitted her for observation, and we were in the hospital less than 24 hours. They put a couple of IV bags into her, and she was rocking and ready to go again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so this happened as well. So this similar story. This happened as well to my mom. She had some pains. Had to go in. They wanted to keep her overnight, but they didn't give her anything but a couple of Advil, and she stayed in the room overnight and was on observation. So she had the little monitors on.
Sure.
But as far as actual drugs, it was 2 Advil. And then just observation. Mm-hmm. And just like you were, she was shocked at what the bill came out to be.
Yeah, because this is what I do, and I review these things all the time. Sure. I kind of expected something, what I would consider to be outrageous, something around $5,000 or $6,000 bill. The $16,000 bill that came in was a bit absurd. And again, this is something that we're constantly looking at and harping on, and the shows that we do and the discussions that we have. But when it hits you just right between the eyes, you're going, well, wait a minute, hold on. 23 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Less than 23 hours, actually. 2 intravenous bags, I think, is what they used, and cost $1 to produce one of those things.
Yeah.
Not to say that the doctors and nurses that came in aren't great people and did a great job taking care of our daughter. And again, my doctor tells me to put her in the hospital again. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
But we've come to a place where the system is absolutely at a critical tilt. When less than 1 day's work without any surgery or major medicine costs $16,000 to provide.
So when I assume you looked at the bill, or whatever the itemized portion of it was, what was it that was so expensive, or was there any one thing that you think, oh gosh, they're just tacking this on?
It wasn't. It was a mixture of observations and things, and this is something we're seeing. Again, I'll put my hat on of not Arabella's daddy, but just kind of the strategist in the room. When we look at these bills, it is absurd of what we are seeing when you do get into the detailed bill, of which most of the time people don't get. Right, you have to actually request that oftentimes from the hospital to see what they're charging you for. But one of the things that we always find is interesting is latex gloves. Right, so latex gloves. There's 3 sizes: small, medium, large. Every day that you're in the hospital will charge you for 3 boxes of latex gloves.
3 whole boxes.
3 whole boxes.
When they may have used a couple when they were.
That's right. And the average charge that they're charging, we're seeing, is about $125 a box.
Wow.
For something you can buy at Costco for Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
So again, this is just plays into it, and the reality is, as we start to look at this, the saddest part of this is that because there's insurance and people have insurance and they pay their deductibles and their co-pays, they don't even think about what's going on behind the scenes. But what translates is their health insurance premiums, right? So that $16,000 bill is getting financed. It's getting financed through my health insurance premiums over time. And while my deductible and out-of-pocket maximum might have only been $6,000 or $7,000, by the time we're all said and done here, there will be $16,000 financed somewhere, and Blue Cross isn't going to lose money on me, so it's going to come back through my health insurance premiums for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. So my mom had a similar thing when she got her bill. I want to say it was around $7,000 or $8,000 for a night. And she was like, first off, this is not the Ritz-Carlton, but they were charging her $75 per Advil. And they weren't like super strength Advil. They were just the regular buy 'em at CVS Advil. And they charged $75 per. And so when she asked about that, they said, well, this, because of the way that it's done here, a lot of people don't pay their bill. And so they price it the way that they price it because they know the return on what they get. You know, if one person pays out of 10, that covers those 10 that didn't pay. Right. And so is there any truth to that? And like the system being so broken that hospitals are have to pay this exorbitant rate to cover the people who don't pay.
I think there's limited truth to that. And the reason I say there's limited truth to that is more than 90% of all Americans have health insurance. So because they have health insurance, the health insurance is going to pick up the largest foot of the bill and just finance that out back to you in premiums, as we discussed earlier. So, there's this large talk about the uninsured population in the United States and how much that costs hospitals and all of this. It's such a fractional piece of the puzzle. But even at that, I can buy a lot of Advil for $75. So it just doesn't transcribe to the numbers that we're seeing of people that can't pay their bill for them to charge what they do for those that can.
Well, and it's weird that people that I know that are even in like healthcare, they're doctors, they're nurses, they were going into the hospital for planned operations. They were going in and they were bringing their own like Advil and Tylenol, which obviously the hospital discourages.
Absolutely.
They're like, no, I'm not paying $75 for an Advil. I have my own. I'm good. Thank you. And so it's weird, like, because they were aware of what the bill came out to be. Whereas most of the time, when you're going into the emergency room, like you said, you don't have a choice. You feel like I have to go here. I am in a state of emergency,
right,
to where I have to go in. So price gouging needs to
You can call it what it is. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So, but it feels a lot like price gouging to me. And for me, I hate it. But at the same time, I enjoy it when I see the bill, because I always ask for an itemized bill. And because I have insurance, all of a sudden my $800 operation or $800 whatever procedure is down to like $2,000.
Right.
Just because I had insurance, they lower the bill significantly, sometimes even by up to half.
Yeah, and this is part of the shell game, though, right? And so I'm overly cynical, but when you look at the way the insurance companies operate, again, the whole idea and the whole structure of insurance originally back in the early 1900s was when insurance companies started to negotiate these PPO networks. Effectively, if we steer people to you, if we bring people to your hospital or your practice, you're going to discount your services. And that was all good and well for 60, 70 years until the introduction of co-pays and co-insurances. And then we saw private equity money move into medicine, right? So, in 2008, we had the too big to fail around banks. Too big to fail now is in healthcare.
Yeah.
It's the world that we live in now. Hospitals continue to grow and they're buying up practices and ancillary services. And so what happens is, as I mentioned earlier, there's so few people that don't have health insurance. Steerage doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So what happens is when insurance companies go into negotiations with hospitals, they no longer say, what are you going to discount your services for me for this service? They're going to say, hey, what kind of profit margin you guys need to make? We need to show that we're showing some value and discounting some services. So you want to make $2,000? Let's start at $4,000. We can tell the public that we're giving a 50% discount off of our services.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time when I hear this option, well, Blue Cross has a better discount than United, than Cigna, and all of this. And I said, discounts don't matter. Price does. At the end of the day, they can tout the discounts all they want. what are we spending on these services? Because that's what matters. And the more that people become more knowledgeable about that, well, they might bring their own ad bill to the hospital.
I'm not going to be so naive as to say, how do we fix this? Because I know that's a bigger question than we have time to get into.
It's a longer show. Yeah.
But for an individual in your situation where they were in the hospital for less than a day, it was a relatively minor procedure. I mean, you're just putting an IV bag in, so it's really not as complicated as other people's. What is your recourse here? I mean, or is it just you get the bill and you're stuck with it, and hopefully your insurance will pick up their portion of it, but otherwise you're paying for whatever your deductible, whatever you have to pay on your deductible, and that's the rest of it.
Yeah, sadly, the way that the system is structured right now, there's not much recourse once the service has been rendered. There's just not much anybody can do, especially if they use insurance, because if you use your insurance, you're contractually bound to the contract that Blue Cross has with that provider, and that's part of the overall agreement. In the bigger, grander scheme of things, I think the thing that we can do is just be better consumers as Americans, right? Understand these things going into it, understand how the system works, and that, I say this oftentimes, diseases don't have an economic agenda. Those that treat diseases do. Mm-hmm. So, and this isn't to shame doctors or hospitals or nurses. We need all of these folks, but we need to be a better consumer as Americans in understanding this. And from a government regulatory standpoint, we need to get to a place where we have a higher level of transparency requirement. Healthcare is the only area that I'm aware of in the economic structure of the United States where you can have thousands upon even hundreds of thousands of dollars charged to you without you knowing beforehand.
Yep.
And there's no transparency. There's no way to know before I go in which hospital is going to give me the better deal. And we've got to get to a place where regulatorily we require that.
Could you have said after the fact, I don't want to claim this on my insurance. Can I pay cash and can we work out a deal?
It's tough to do once it's toothpaste is out of the tube. It's hard to kind of put it back in, right? So that's the challenge. And so I could have gone in and claimed not to have insurance, but then the challenge that I run there, or the risk that I run there, is maybe the care that I got wasn't going to be as good because now they're fearful that maybe I can't pay.
That you're going to skate out on the bill.
That's exactly right. So I always tell people, if you have a procedure that's non-emergency based, that hey, I got time to research this a little bit, research it and say, hey, listen, if I didn't have insurance, what does this cost? Or call back a second time and ask those questions. What's a cash pay price? Oftentimes you'll find it's a better deal.
Yeah.
Seth, I thank you so much for coming on. Again, that's Seth Denson. He is the co-founder of GDP. Go online, look him up. You're always available to talk and chat if you have any questions about the healthcare industry and how to save a buck or two doing that. Thank you so much. We're coming right back. A breakfast staple, IHOP, is going away. We'll tell you more about that coming up next.